analytical perspective with your reviews on what's hot in entertainment. Today's discussion will be on the show Grownish. Let's talk about it. We're at episode 5 of Grownish, and they're calling this episode Daddy's Lessons. Daddy's Lessons. I guess, this season has been totally crazy because we watched Zoe and Aaron do some crazy things, and we'll be trying to see how Vivek is going to deal with the circumstances of the repercussions of his circumstances, getting caught with drugs with Heidi and stuff like that. So, in this episode of Daddy's Lessons, we start out with, I'm going to start out with Vivek talking to Jazz, talking to Aaron, talking to Zoe about his parents coming, and they're blowing up his phone, and he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't really know. He already knows what the repercussions are because we get a glimpse of the college board basically denying him his rebuttal to them suspending him or kicking him out for a year. So he knows that he no longer can be at the college. So 6 months early than everyone else, he's now officially on his own and won't have that degree. Vivek is smart because he wanted to study engineering. And then engineering, the course load is not easy. I, myself, was a chemistry major, and that course load is also not easy. It's actually one of the top 10 hardest course loads in college. It's kind of crazy. So Jazz does something supremely funny because Jazz basically says, hey, you should blame it on Heidi. You blame it on her because, had she never opened up the book, you would have never been in the situation you were in. Which is true. Had Heidi never opened up that book, with the police officers coming, I know she was trying to help out, but it really became a detriment. And Vivek is really taking it in, maybe I should do it, and I should blame everything else. And Zoe and Aaron are nah, you should just take responsibility, and you're going too far with it. Accept what you did. You did it, and now you have to accept the repercussions of it. Now, while all this is going on, we learned that Doug is an RA. He's an RA. He is roaming the halls, and there is this room that the music is super loud. He knocks on the door, and this beautiful young broad comes to the door, and she's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know that the music was this loud. And upon her opening the door, he goes and smells that the room is full of weed smoke, and he's like, this is seeping out. This is going to be a detriment. Everyone's going to know what you're doing. And we learned that this girl's name is Kayla. And then later on in the episode, we learned that Kayla is actually Luca's sister. Okay? So, Dougie apparently stays hanging with Kayla for about 2 hours while he's preaching to her about, not the weed smoke, because he finds a balance with her knowing that she has people from Queens and that she comes from Queens, and she has this photo on the wall, and he's like, the people that they were trying to keep you away from is people like me. So the next time we see Dougie is basically at the end of the episode when we learn that Kayla is Luca's sister, and that she pretends basically not to know Doug or know very little of him. And the whole time, Doug is basically talking about Kayla to Luca, but not knowing that Luca is Kayla's brother, and not knowing that he's basically telling Luca like, "Yo, I want to slam your sister. I want to really like get a home run with her." And Luca kind of, I don't know if really Luca is being oblivious to it or he's just like ignoring the whole deal because he pretty much knows that his sister can take care of herself, or he's just pretty much like maybe not knowing the deal, but he's like, "Yo, hey, this is my sister," and he basically lets her know, like, "Yo, he's been going on and on about this girl that he met today that he wants to get with, he wants to sleep with." So then we go back to Vivek, and Vivek is still internalizing that his parents are coming. And we soon see that Dre shows up to the house. Yes, Zoe's dad shows up to the house in anger because he found out about Mexico. Yes, when Zoe got married to Aaron and some of the crazy other things that happened. And some things were let out that, Aaron was kind of locked up and so was kind of Zoe. And Dre, in the heat of anger, basically tells Zoe that she's a disappointment and an embarrassment. And then she lets him know that she's been humiliated. And she goes upstairs. So Aaron is like, maybe I gotta settle this. I'm gonna fix it. And Dre is like, yeah, you do that. So Dre has a nice conversation with Vivek about, is there anything that Zoe could do or his kids could do that he would just say, hey, this is not forgivable and you're no longer mine. So I'm gonna set that conversation to the side for a second. Because we have Anna and we have Nomi, that Nomi has her child. She has Luna, and Phil is not helping, and the daycare is closed because it's in the middle of a pandemic. And Anna gets mad at Nomi because Nomi couldn't make it to class, and she asked Anna to take notes for her. So Anna's like, I'm so tired of you asking me to take notes. You act like you can't come to class. So Nomi just basically tells Anna, like, you know what? The daycare is closed. I have no one to help me. I have no village here. Basically, I'm doing this by myself. And I could take Luna to class, but she doesn't sit still because she's no longer a baby. She's getting to those toddler ages where she wants to explore a little bit more. So, as the episode progresses, we find out that Anna actually becomes the tribe. Anna becomes the tribe, and she decides to look up babysitters and lets Nomi know, like, we're all here for you. All you got to do is ask. And at the end, we see that Marissa is being interviewed by Nomi and Anna. And if you don't know who Marissa is essentially the Johnsons' babysitter for their youngest. And she basically helped raise all the kids. And Bo doesn't really like her. So we find out that the Johnson family has let her go. And they're wondering why Marissa has been let go and why they have such a chance at such a good babysitter for Luna. Going back to Vivek, Dre pretty much tells Vivek, like, if it's not Junior, then, everyone else is pretty much forgiven. And we see Vivek's parents for the first time. And I thought that Vivek was going to, lie his way out of it. But he actually was truthful. And in that truth, his parents had two different expressions towards his truth. His mom was kind of endearing and was like, my poor baby. And his dad was like, I love that you were confident enough to be truthful, but I have lost all respect for you and you are no longer my son. Which, to conclude everything with Vivek, he ends up in tears, being consoled by Zoe, because he was basically like, my dad doesn't love me. My dad doesn't want me anymore. That basically is the episode. Okay? Between everyone else, and like I said, there were a few funny parts with Jazz doing the most insane things because she always has the most insane things to say. But there was a hint of seriousness. Now, this season has been very up and down for me because it's kind of like I don't really care for Zoe that much because I feel like she does the most. My favorite character is always going to be Luca, and then probably second to Luca, Vivek. And then after Vivek, probably Nomi, because I feel like they all are risk takers and they all kind of like beat to their own drum. But other than that, like I said, I would give this episode maybe a 7 out of 10. But it wasn't one of my favorites. But there are some serious things that I would like to discuss about this episode. And the number one serious thing that I would like to discuss about it is how serious the tones were about feeling like you have basically embarrassed your parents or your parents are abandoning you. That's a serious issue, and it's something that we all have to deal with no matter our age. And it doesn't just happen to people in college. It happens to people in middle school, and it happens to people when they get older enough to want to get married or anything else. When you felt out of place. And the other thing I would like to discuss with it is the fact that I feel as though that Vivek made mistakes that shouldn't define him for the rest of his life. And I kind of knew that Cal U was going to kick him out, even though that everything happened off campus, because they do have an ethics policy when you're a student, when you go to college. But he could just simply go somewhere else and start over and start brand new. But I like the initiative of him actually taking the time to be like, you know what, I made a mistake. And I actually have to admit to my mistake because I've been trying to be someone who I'm not because I want to impress my parents. I want them to be proud of me. And I think sometimes we get caught up in trying to live in the impressions that our parents gave us instead of living in the impression that we have made for ourselves. If you have a father or mother who is a farmer and they want you to take over the farm, you don't have to do that. You can go and be an astronaut or be an architect or be a doctor. You don't have to be the farmer. Even though it's nice to want to carry on the family legacy, it's nice to want to do that. But you have to do what works for you. And there's so many of us who try to fit in the shoes that our parents have instilled in us instead of trying to work for ourselves and figure it out for ourselves what truly makes us happy. Now, life is too long. And I know you're probably like, life is too long. Yes, life is too long. Once you start putting it down into days and minutes and stuff like that, life is too long to be doing something that doesn't truly make you happy. There are some people content enough to stay working a job, not a career, a job, because it pays the bills. Not because it makes them happy, but because it pays the bills. Sometimes you have to get over that. Could you imagine staying at a place that makes you so unhappy, so uncomfortable, so tiring that every day when you get up, you just want to get back in bed and curl back up and say, you know what? I want to call out. I want to quit. There are people like that every day they go to some place that's full of negativity, that's full of people who say, well, I don't want to be here. If you want to achieve something and you want it bad enough and you're willing to work at it, you have to be willing to take that risk. No matter what it is. Yes, there are going to be hard days where you're going to feel like you weren't a success. There are going to be days where you feel as though you should have stayed where you are. But if you never take that leap, you don't know how it could have ended. Now, there's going to be some people who take the leap over and over again and fail over and over again, but at least they took the leap. And usually some of those people, the reason why they fail over and over again, because they never re-strategize. Once you fail, you re-strategize, so that way when you start over to take the leap again, you already know where you have to fix the inadequacies. So with that said, because I'm trying to keep this nice and short, and this is basically a review, I also want to leave you with a story. A story of when I was in college. Yes. Now, if you don't know much about me, I went to a historical black college. I also went to a primarily white college. So, it was interesting. Both were interesting experiences. And they're both kind of discussions for another day. But I will story tell about. I have a few friends that I went to college with. A few associates. Who basically were doing stuff similar to Vavi. Trying to impress their parents. Doing the things that their parents wanted them to do. You know, especially at the historical black college, because there are a lot of parents who, if they went to historical black college, they want their kids to go to historical black college. They want their kids to be the Alpha Kappa Alpha, or the Alpha Phi Alphas, or the Omegas, or the Kappa Alpha Psi, or stuff, whatever it may be. Okay? Now, one of those people was unhappy most of the time we were in college, because she was at a university where she didn't want to be. I also know a fellow that who went to college who did everything to impress his parents because he was gay. And he wanted that acceptance because he knew that once he came out, that they were going to pretty much side road him. And he was equally surprised to see that his mama didn't do that. That she accepted him for who he was. You know? But my other friend, she did stay the 4 years. And like I said, she was unhappy. She was unhappy. She did everything to go party, mall, all that kind of stuff. Anything to stay off campus. Still did her work, still graduated, but just unhappy. And even talking about those experiences now, we never talk about it. Like when we graduated, because I graduated from a totally different college, we don't talk about those experiences. In fact, I don't talk about those experiences because when I was in college, for me, hate to say it, but when I was in the historical black college, I hated it. I hated it with a passion. Still, when I look back at those experiences, I hate them with a passion. Maybe it was the university that I went to. Maybe it was just the experience. For me, it just wasn't an experience. But I have associates and people that I feel close, who are like family, who went to historical black colleges, who loved it. Who prospered from going to those places. So I will say this. No matter where you go, just make sure you love it. Just make sure you love being there. Make sure you are willing to put in the effort to make relationships. You know, I look back at that, and even though that I hated the experience, I'm happy that I went through with the experience because I learned a lot of things. And I did have some good memories. Everything there wasn't bad. You know, there were certain things that were bad, but everything wasn't bad. And for me, it didn't work out for me mainly because I went to college for chemistry, pre-med, and that wasn't a school that focused primarily on that. Had I went for more of the artsy kind of or a literature kind of major, it would have been perfect for that. You know, if I had went to the more pristine historical black colleges that are more adequate for someone of science major, I might have enjoyed myself. But I didn't go to that. When I went to more of a communications and liberal arts school, university that was historical black, and I didn't like it. But other than that, like I said, make sure you like it. Make sure you take in the relationships and the experiences. It's always nice to go in a new place. And even if you don't go to college, because I know some of us will not go to college. You go to trade school, do the same. If you go to the military, do the same. Make those relationships. Have fun. Explore. And be happy that you took the chance to do it, because there are a lot of people who won't even take those chances. Whether it be going into the military, trade school, or going to a university. And if all of those are not what you have had to do, maybe it might have just been you getting a job. You trying to pull yourself by the bootstraps and grow with the company. Be happy about that. Make sure it's someplace that you want to be. Make sure it's someplace that you are going to be happy. If being happy and being content could be just flipping a burger. Who knows? You could be the next franchisee of a McDonald's, of a Wendy's, of a Hardee's, of a Jack in the Box, or a Sonic. Whoever knows. Who knows? But you have to make sure that you love it. And that was the main thing for me for this episode. It wasn't daddy lessons. It was making sure that we always don't appease the people that we love the most. That sometimes we got to take time for ourselves and figure out what makes us happy. Genuinely happy, that we can get up tomorrow and say, I'm so happy to go in. You know, I can't wait to hit my desk. I can't wait for the first project. But this has been Analytical Perspective. And I am Farrah Moses. This has been my review on Grownish. And I can't wait to see you next week. Also, I'm going to link up another YouTube page that I think that you should check out. Check them out. They do reviews. Their reviews are way better than mine. But, you know, they do reviews on shows like Sisters, The Shine, All American. They've also done Grownish. Maybe they'll throw up a Grownish one. Who knows? And if you have creative ideas, they welcome the comments. And they will take you up on a show that you want them to review. Who knows? And you might actually get to see me in the comments. So, I'm going to link them up. Their channel and their last episode of Sisters. Check them out. But, like I said, this has been Analytical Perspective. And I'm Farrah Moses. And I will see you when I see you.